now ready to start our second session of Chai and Chat, which is on contemporary Greek cinema. So you have the experts here, and I would like to welcome them with a Greek word which says to your health, but I forgot.
Yassas.
Yasus.
Hello. Hello.
So yasus to them and to everybody. And I'd like to introduce them. This is Maria. And next to Maria, this is Zephyrus. Okay. Melanos. Yanis. And Eleni, who has a film in competition as a producer. And I'd like to introduce the well-known film critic Alka Sahani, who's been kind enough to moderate this session at a very short notice. So thank you, Alka, and over to you.
Hello. Today we are going to have a session on contemporary Greek cinema. Greek cinema has a very rich history, and Greek cinema has gone through many highs and lows to reach this stage. And the films have been getting a lot of international attention, but the industry is at a very crucial juncture. It's faced with some amount of financial crisis. So despite that, we have been getting some very interesting movies are being made in the country, and they have been traveling internationally. So maybe we can ask them where does it stand now, the contemporary cinema, what is the nature of contemporary cinema, what kind of films are being made currently. Okay.
Hello, thank you for coming. We basically, it's been 10 years since, almost 10 years, since a new generation of Greek directors are starting to get attention, international attention. And there is a sort of a group, I would call it, of our generation who are on their first, second, or third film, and who expand thematically and basically dealt with themes like sex, race, and family in a different way than it used to be. If you top that with people who came from abroad, study abroad and came back to Greece, and on top of that, the Greek crisis, who gave a lot of attention, international attention, you start sort of having a picture of Greek cinema today.
I would like to tell that there are some Greek films here, and because for art Greek films is not very easy to see them in Greek theaters, we had the opportunity to see our films here with the Greeks. So the variation of the films proves that we have all kinds of films, and this is very important. And also I would like to notice that of course in Greece now we have crisis, but for Greek cinema crisis was something which happens always. So this has nothing to do really with what we are doing now. And it's important that we are showing our films here because it's an audience who has perhaps different point of view, so we can realize their attitude for our films.
Okay. Hello, I'm Maria Douza. I'm a director, and Zafir is my DOP. Thank you for having us here first. And we are very excited and happy to be in this festival. I will agree with Menelaos. I think the contemporary Greek cinema is characterized by diversity. Before I said two words, it's diversity against adversity, because really the films are made against all odds. They have always been made against all odds, to be true, to be honest, in Greece. The crisis has made things a little worse, but they were never really good, because we don't have a film industry as such since the 70s. So we have always been trying to make ends meet. People have been always made with a lot of self-sacrifice, commitment, passion, and all that, but no money. So yes, the crisis has made things a little worse, but because we have learned to make films under very difficult circumstances, this is why I believe we keep making them despite the crisis. And if the crisis has affected filmmaking somehow, it is in terms of the subject matter. Lots of the films that are made nowadays deal with the crisis, directly or indirectly. Some in a very realistic way, depicting the reality of Greece in very dark colors. Some deal with it in an allegorical way. The fact that many films deal with the crisis have made these films very popular internationally. Because abroad there is an audience hungry to get an insight of what happens in Greece, and our films offer this insight abundantly. However, I want to say that these are not the only films made. These are the films most promoted because of their actuality. They are so contemporary and political. But there are so many other films made that are dealing with other questions, existential questions, moral questions, historical questions, and a lot of them, happily, are presented here. I think out of the 7 films that we have here, I would say almost all of them, or 6 of them, are dealing with more universal and timeless subjects. Sorry, thank you very much.
Hello. Somehow the crisis that we have these days, these years in Greece, somehow it helped the movie business. In a way that TV stations closed down, commercials got less and less, so there are a lot of filmmakers out there who are out of work. And when a director comes along and says, I have a project to do and I have a movie to do, instead of us sitting in our couches, we go out and do movies because that's what we love to do and that's what we know what to do. And eventually the number of films that we're making this year is more than 10 years ago. That helped finally.
Alka?
Hello, my name is Eleni Boris, and I'm not a creative. I am a creative producer, but I'm not a director. I'm a producer. I agree in part with my fellow countrymen and women and colleagues, but I also have a very different opinion. I think that the films that are being made are not necessarily at the moment speaking about the crisis, but I think we are seeing films that are examining the reasons underlying why Greek society has been led to a crisis. So it's questioning, like Yanni said, very fundamental issues like the notion of family, the notion of a relationship, the notion of sexuality, the notion of how one lives one life, the values of a Greek society. And that's being done in a very, very different way than the other generation of directors. And it is very cutting edge. It is very in your face. I don't like the term that was coined by The Guardian, which called it the weird wave, Greek weird wave. I really don't like that. I think it's very innovative cinema. However, from a producer's point of view, I agree with everything the guys have said. Films are being made on the goodwill and the passion and the integrity of our key creatives, but that can't go on. People have, you know, they have families, they have children, they have to support themselves. So I think the government and the European Union needs to realize that if you're making films and you really want a national cinema, you need to support it. Excluding Hollywood and Bollywood, which are the only independent, you know, film industries in the world, every single national cinema has government subsidy. So if we want to see Greek cinema, I personally am a big sort of politically active to actually ensure we get government funding back to Greek cinema. We would love for Indian filmmakers, independent filmmakers to come to Greece to shoot. There are two levels. There are very, very capable production companies, line production companies, both more established and some younger, that will be able to provide the service, you know, your line producing, very capable, with great crews. Greece has fantastic crews and technicians. So that's on the one hand. In terms of incentives, in theory, apparently there are incentives. But in reality, I have to be honest, I don't really think you would see a euro, especially at this point in time. It's very, very hard because it's such limited funds that they don't actually have a formal process of being able to assess those kind of applications.
With all the concentration being put on the crisis, you guys keep speaking about your core audience. Who do you think makes up that core audience? Is it the younger generation who are extremely worried about their future, or is it the older generation that actually have the money and the resources, the financial resources to go to watch the movies? And secondly, how do you guys feel that you get enough support from the general Greek media, even with all the concentration on the economic crisis?
Could you please repeat your question?
The second part. The first is, what is the core of our audience? The core of our audience in Greece. I think there is the biggest audience is young for American movies, if I'm not wrong. You know, 15 to 30 who pack the cinemas when Hollywood movies are playing. For the rest of the film distribution, European or Greek, the audience is of an older age. They're, I think, 40 plus. And there are people who are cinephiles, traditional film goers for years, more cultured, more trained, more demanding. But they are less in numbers. So they are an audience that cannot really sustain distribution of European, let alone Greek films. Now, the second part, can you please tell us the second part of the question?
Can you please repeat that?
As independent filmmakers, I feel you get enough support from the general Greek media, newspapers, television. Do you feel you get, forget about the governments, do you guys feel you get enough support from the general Greek media for your films?
You want to know the kind of support they get from the media, right? How does the media support
I think they support. I mean, I think there is a sort of a switch happened the last 10 years, especially with this generation. Film critics are friendlier, are and basically we have a big turn towards Greek films. So they do support them as much as they can. Obviously, the biggest game is played by the distributors who are influence the media, and there are there are a lot of specialized sites that they cover cinema, and the television at the moment is going through a huge crisis because the public television shut down suddenly one night and sort of supposed to be reopened, and everybody's sort of confused about it. And so public television was a huge influence and supporter of Greek cinema. They used to play Greek films, and they had the rights distributor. They have the rights of many films, and some of the films that they are playing here in India are financed by public television, and so there is a sort of a mixed bag, really. There is a sort of law that says that 1.5% of the Greek television sort of income, net income, should go towards filmmaking, which was never sort of materialized by the by the private channels. There is always the same conversation. Is the government will apply the law about filmmaking, or we just gonna kind of every time go again and again and ask the same thing? So.
In Greece, you can be supported for a project, but sometimes the process, it seems that it would take forever, because sometimes it's a little bit difficult, you have to wait and all these things. And another aspect which is very important is that with a Greek project, you could apply to media, to Eurimage, to international sources, which is also complicated, but very interesting and helpful for productions. And this is the only way to produce films like this in our country, where we have no other private sources, a lot of private sources for the films.
Any more questions?
I think there's a Greek film at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
And they have to be there. So
Okay. Thank you all for coming and attending the session and sharing your experience about and telling us about Greek cinema.